Hello, and welcome back to Final Whistle. Today, I'll be going over my most underappreciated rookies coming out of this draft class. We'll be going over some guys that I think deserve a lot more attention than they're getting. And without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we got Jamar Thrash out of Louisville. He was drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns, and he was a 4-year player at Georgia State before transferring for his last season at Louisville. He put up great numbers in his last year at Georgia State with 1,100 yards, and he kept up that production even though transferring into a Power 5 conference in the ACC. In his 5th year, he put up 858 yards for Louisville, and he was one of their best offensive weapons and really carried that offense. Jamari Thrash is a very smooth route runner with sharp cuts. He's incredibly explosive out of his cuts, which makes it very hard for DBs to guard him. As you can see in his highlight tape, he's a route technician. I mean, he's just an incredible route runner. He also has incredible yak ability. He's great at twisting and turning and slipping off of tackles, and that makes him very hard to keep up with, and he has explosive speed. Like, he can break away from any DB that tries to track him down. Going back to his route running, I mean, he just has beautiful cuts, and he's very good at selling the false route. As you can see in this post corner, he's able to get the DB turned around, and that leaves him wide open in the back of the end zone, giving his QB an easy throw. Jamari Thrash is also very versatile. He can be used in the motion game. He can be used out of the backfield. He was very productive in yards per carry, and that can be something that's tapped into by an NFL offense, even though Louisville didn't really tap into it that much. But when he was given the ball in the run game, he was productive. Some flaws with Jamari Thrash is he's small for the NFL. He's 6'1", 180, so pretty good height, but low on the weight. And he can be overcome by press defense due to his lack of play strength. Sometimes he can be pushed off of his routes, but when he gets his release and when he's not touched off the line of scrimmage, it's impossible to keep up with him. He has a very large route tree, which NFL coaches will love to see, and that will translate very well to NFL offenses. And right now he's sitting as number 2 on the depth chart for the Cleveland Browns, so I think he'll have a very good chance to make an impact as a rookie. So I think he's being very underappreciated and should be getting more coverage. Up next, we've got out of Houston Christian. He was drafted in the 3rd round by the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a 3-year player at Cornell before transferring for 2 seasons at Houston Christian, and he put up some very solid numbers. In his last season, he put up 46 total tackles with 9 TFLs and 6.5 sacks. He's a very explosive edge rusher. In fact, he actually transitioned from safety to edge rusher when he transferred to Houston Christian, and that is shown in his crazy athleticism. He's one of the most athletic edges in this draft class, and he has just beautiful burst, great first step, and he just really comes on to offensive linemen. That makes it hard for them to stop him. It's very hard to slow him down. He's got a very good build, 6'4", with long limbs, 245. The only real problem with him is his strength. He's slightly undersized for an edge, and he lacks lower body strength compared to other edges in this draft class, so that can sometimes make it easy for tackles to push him around. But usually he makes up with that with his bend and his great first step. He put on a show at the Senior Bowl. He was just absolutely making tackles look silly, and I think he's a very good player. Although he is an experimental draft pick, seeing as, he did transfer from safety and he is undersized and he does have some stuff that he needs to work on. He is a raw prospect, but I think within a couple years he can be a very good player and become a starter for the Eagles. Up next, we've got Now we're going to go over Sam Pinckney out of Coastal Carolina, our first undrafted player. He was signed to the Panthers after going undrafted. He also started off at Georgia State, just like Jamari Thrash. They played together for a couple of years. He was a 4-year player and transferred to Coastal Carolina for 2 seasons, where he put up some very great stats, almost 1,000 yards in both of those seasons. In his Sun Belt career, he's one of the best Sun Belt receivers ever. First in career receiving yards, second in yards per reception, and fourth in receiving touchdowns. So he made history in his time at Georgia State, and he put up some very good numbers at Coastal Carolina as well. He is a large receiver at 6'4", 220. I mean, he's damn near tight end size, and he's very good with jump balls, has a massive catch radius, and is great at tracking the ball. Any ball you throw in his vicinity, he's probably going to come down with, no matter the size of the DB. Honestly, his biggest issue is his lack of speed. He did rely a lot on size in college, and when you're getting to the NFL, there will be DBs that are similar size as him, so he won't be able to rely on his size as much, especially being only 220 pounds, which is pretty good size for a receiver, but it's not big enough to, throw your weight around on NFL DBs. He ran a mid 4.7, which is quite slow for an NFL receiver, and that could be an issue for him. But his strength and physicality could help him. His best course of action would probably be a transition to tight end. As I said, he's almost near tight end weight. If he puts on another 15, 20 pounds, he could be a very solid tight end at 6'4". And with his ball tracking skills, I think he could become a top 10 receiving tight end in the league. I know that's a big prediction for an undrafted player, but I think if he gets the chance to shine, he will show his stuff. And now we have another undrafted free agent. We've got Cody Schrader out of Mizzou. He was signed to the 49ers after going undrafted. He played 4 years at Truman State before transferring and walking on at Mizzou. And for a walk-on, my goodness, not even just for a walk-on, for any player in the country, he was incredible. In his junior season, he put up 1,627 yards on 5.9 yards per carry, 14 rushing touchdowns, plus around 200 receiving yards. He was voted a first-team All-American, was the Bullsworth Trophy winner for the best walk-on, and he was 8th in Heisman voting. So he had a very illustrious college career, and he performed incredibly at Mizzou. And they had a very great offense last year, and he was a big part of that. He was a very productive runner in college. He has incredible vision. He can see gaps, and he's quick to the line, which makes it hard for D linemen to grab him at the line before he can get through there and get to the second level. And once he gets to the second level, he's a very downhill runner. He's north and south he has solid cutability, but he's a very north and south runner. He somewhat lacks speed. He doesn't have great breakaway speed, but he can find holes, and he can make people miss, and he can shrug off tackles very well. He doesn't have great size, being 5'8", 214. However, he still plays with incredible physicality, and that makes him hard to bring down. Unfortunately, he is stuck in a stacked running back room in San Fran with players like, of course, Christian McCaffrey. They have Elijah Mitchell, another rookie in Isaac Garindo, who will likely start over him this year. But within a couple years to come, I think he will show himself to be the best running back in this draft class. Maybe him or Isaac Garindo. I didn't think this was a very stacked running back class, but I think him and Isaac Garindo, who just so happen to be in the same RB room, can show themselves to be incredible backs in the coming years. Before we get to our last one, let's go over some honorable mentions that I've got. First up, we've got Tez Walker out of UNC. He was drafted to the Ravens in the 4th round. Tez Walker is just a magnificent receiver, man. He's honestly my favorite receiver in this draft class. I just love watching him play. I can't really even describe the emotions I feel when I see Tez Walker on the field. He's just an explosive player, and not just because he went to UNC, but he also reminds me of Josh Downs, who came out last year. And Josh Downs was probably my favorite receiver out of last year's draft class as well. And I predicted him to do well, and he had a great rookie season. So hopefully Tez Walker lives up to those expectations. Next up, we've got Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. He was drafted to the Packers in round 2. In my biased A&M fan opinion, he was the best linebacker in this draft class. But I don't think that's even a far stretch to say. I mean, he's just a great player. He can cover, he can blitz. He's just an all around great middle linebacker for you to have. You can move him to edge if you need to. He can really almost even play safety. He's an incredibly athletic linebacker, and watching him play at A&M was magnificent to watch. And finally, we've got Justin LeBourgby out of Alabama. He was drafted to the Chargers in round 4, and he's just a very physical D tackle. He lacks some burst, but that's something that can be added, I think, with NFL coaching. But I think his first step and his first punch really can set a lot of offensive linemen backwards, and I think he's just a great player, and I think he'll develop well under the Chargers system. And last but not least, we've got he was drafted in the 4th round by the Ravens, and he was a 4-year player at Iowa State. He's a well-built corner at 6'1", 201 pounds, with great length, great arm length, and leg length. He's a very lanky corner, which is a build you look for when you're going to draft a cornerback and really any player in the secondary. This is a guy who excels in press coverage. He's got great strength, and he uses that to hold receivers accountable at the line of scrimmage. He's great at disrupting routes, and that's a trait that you look for in a cornerback because it makes it very hard for a receiver to get open when they can't even get back to the route tree. He's also an above-average tackler for a cornerback. He racked up 8 TFLs in the past 2 seasons. Although he could improve on his open field tackling, he's still a pretty good tackler at the cornerback position. Now, he does have below-average speed, which is usually a big talking point for a corner. I don't think it will be too much of an issue, but he does run a low 4.5, which can make him struggle against vertical routes if he doesn't get hands-on early. But like I said earlier, he is very good at press, so this will make it easier for him to make up for that speed. I think that him being drafted to the Ravens was a match made in heaven, honestly, because the Ravens love flexible corners, guys who can play both man and zone coverage very well. And like I said earlier, he's excellent in man, and he's also very good in zone. So he's very flexible. He can play both ways. He can do whatever a defensive coordinator needs him to do, and I think he will develop incredibly under that Ravens system. Overall, I'm just really excited about this rookie draft class. All these rookies and many others just have me really intrigued for this upcoming NFL season, and I just feel like I might have never been more excited for a season than this upcoming one. So if you have any suggestions or any comments or concerns or anything about the video, please leave them down in the comment section below. Let us know what we can do better or what types of content y'all want to see, and we'll see you next time on a full pod. Peace.